the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Please stand. On the count of three, 1, 2, 3, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice
and
for
justice
all.
for all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, board members. Such a beautiful day today. We appreciate you making the personal sacrifices to come. Dr. Cash, I have a
Yes.
board recognition that's in front of me. With your permission, I'd like to present it.
Absolutely.
Okay. It
That was
deals
a great
with
idea.
our middle school math league. And every year we have a competition involves students being committed to after school activities. It was very competitive last year, and it's a beautiful event. I had it on my calendar, and you get, it's just awesome the way our math director of mathematics, John Wagstaff, presents it. So tonight, it is my pleasure to virtually recognize 30 of our schools who participated in the 2019-20 Middle School Math League under the direction of John Wagstaff, Director of Mathematics. More than 280 grade 7 and 8 mathlics completed. The three highest scoring school teams are as following. First place was Houghton Academy, number 69, with Coach Keith Wiley. Second place, International School, number 45, with Coach Nicole Dracup. And number 3, Side Elementary, with Coach Heather Ferrero at number 93. The three highest scoring students are from Houghton Academy, number 69, under the leadership of Wiley, and in a three-way tie, graders Fazea Mutaz, Emily Gamble, and Abdul Mohammed. All three students are enrolled at Houghton Academy. Dean is sending them out big time this year. They successfully answer questions such as, I can't even say it, FIBONACC, Lou, you're the Italian on the bread.
It's a Fibonacci sequence, Mrs. Copman. It's a famous math sequence.
Thank you. Okay. Below, each term is the sum of the previous two terms, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. Which one of the following two options will be even? The 17th, 18th, or 19th, or the 20th term? In other words, those children were doing some serious calculating. Congratulations to the students for participating, and thank you to the team coaches for supporting them. Listed are the pictures of our three top, and we want to salute them. Even though we're in a virtual environment, they still represent it, and I am very excited about what is going on in our math department. We have a lot of great, in this package today, I believe there are 2 items that will impact our students, and we're looking forward to that. I'd like to encourage our math team to continue and grow this and expand it. That's all I have at this point for board recognition. I would, yeah, woo, 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 yeah, to support our kids. That's great. To not work. The only other thing, and I want to be mindful that we have our speakers who are waiting on the phone. The only other thing is that we want to acknowledge that our governor today is working on putting together a Juneteenth as a state holiday for state employees. Maybe in the future, our board will have a discussion as to whether we will give our team members, our fellow employees, that day off as well. But now, Dr. Cash is clear to say that there is so much work that is winding up for this Friday that we certainly want to just let things move forward. Dr. Cash, with that done, could you give us your update, please?
Absolutely. Colleagues, I just have a couple of really exciting announcements to make. This is the end of 5 years in this work together as a team, and it may prove to be, real excited about it, our best year yet, even with all of the challenges that we had to address. I want to thank Mayor Brown for his delivery. He gave a very nice speech, about a 2-minute speech. It's on our website to our 2020 graduates. Want to thank him for that. Today is a day when all of our students' electronic work is due, June 17th. And today is the second to last day. It's the last day of school for most of our students. We've given a couple of our seniors some extra time because they're so motivated to try to complete the work to graduate, and we want to support them. So June 22nd is the last day for teachers. June 17th, last day for students, and for some seniors, June 19th. Certainly want to echo what President Copman said about the Executive Order 204 today to make Juneteenth a state holiday. Certainly is long overdue, and it's a celebration and a remembrance in the African American community that is significant, and we appreciate the honor that Governor Cuomo is putting forth. I also want to commend the Office of CLRI. They have a number of community forums that they've been sponsoring under the leadership of Dr. Fatima Morrell. Again, go on your website and look at a virtual town hall that will be occurring tomorrow, a Juneteenth virtual protest at 6:30 tomorrow through the arts. And Dr. Morrell always does a great job with that. So please join in, colleagues, and to the community at large. We're also sponsoring a book club for this summer. A lot of the history and information that is needed in our society to help address some of the divisions that we've seen in recent weeks. We really kicked this into turbo gear, and there's a really robust list of readings that we're going to provide to the board. We're engaged in it as staff, and Ann and Fatima are infusing it into the curriculum for our students and for professional development for our staff. So stay tuned for these books that will be coming your way by expert, Pulitzer Prize, and noted researchers and authors. You'll really find them impressive. All right, well, a lot going on, finishing the year strong. The 2020 class is something special. Their graduations are continuing throughout the district, all up until the end of June. And reach out if you can, and give them your love. They've done something special this year, and I'm very, very impressed with their efforts as well as staff. So great finish to a great year. Thank you. Thank you for all of your support and what you've done, board.
Thank you, Dr. Cash, for your leadership and the great job that you've done. Last 5 years, I can tell you that it's been an adventure, one I'll never forget. But I appreciate the work that you do. Because this is a 5th year anniversary, and because we have next week scheduled additional meetings to your evaluation, I think what I'd like to do for the board members, if you're in agreement, is that after our second meeting, our special meeting, that they prepare statements of some sort from each board member to Dr. Cash and legacy in our district, if that's agreeable with you guys at that time, rather than taking the time now today to do it, that we have our community on hold. They're online right now waiting to speak. Are you guys in agreement with that on Tuesday, doing something like that? I'm seeing the heads go. Most people are shaking. Thank you, everyone except for one person, so that must means yes. Okay, good. All right, okay, thank you. So today, what we're doing with the speaker list is that we have our speakers on hold, and we're going to call them as we call their name. They're going to speak, and if for some reason, because this is the first time around that we're trying this, if it turns out that someone is not on the phone at the time that we're talking about doing this, then what we want to do is to make sure that we come back, recircle this list, because this is the first time we've ever tried this, and it's important that they heard. They've taken the time to call in, and we want to make sure that they hear us. Okay, so let me just briefly say, at this time, the board welcomes speakers who have signed up to speak at tonight's meeting. Please be reminded that all speakers' remarks must be limited to 3 minutes or less. We ask that speakers be mindful that this is a business meeting open to the public and televised locally. Attendees and viewers include persons from throughout Western New York, including children. This board asks that speakers conduct themselves professionally and that their comments remain civil and courteous, bearing in mind that they will be heard by people of all ages. This is an opportunity for Buffalo's residents to address the Buffalo Board of Education about issues that serve the public interest and district mission. And the board asks that the speakers demonstrate appropriate decorum. Thank you for joining us. Our first speaker is Deanna Burgess, a parent. Deanna, are you there?
Mrs. Cotman, she is not. We attempted to reach Mrs. Burgess, and we were unsuccessful in reaching her.
Okay, so if you reach her before the meeting is over, then we will let her speak. Our next person is Matt Peters. All right, concerned about reopening. Matt, you're there? Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak with you all this evening. I know you're busy, so I do appreciate it. I'm Matt Peters, and I'm a parent in the school system. I just wanted to say a couple things about our thoughts, my wife and I's thoughts on the importance of school opening back up in the fall. And then I do have a specific question at the end. So let me start by expressing how critical, I guess, we think it is that our children get back to school in the fall. And I want to be clear that I'm talking about brick and mortar return to school and not distance learning. Just our experience with the distance learning for the last 3 months of the school year approximately was pretty miserable, and I'd say ineffective as well. I mean, the idea to us, the distance learning where you're reliant upon parents, many of whom don't have the time or even possibly the desire to take on this added responsibility to teach their children at home is not really reasonable. And that being said, obviously I'm talking about from our perspective and maybe some of the close friends that we talk to, but I don't think this is just for the sake of my kids, but also any of the underprivileged who presumably don't have the time or opportunity to even let their voices be heard. And it kind of saddens my wife and I when we think about kids who would possibly be lost if some attempted distance learning is intended for the fall, as to us it's just an ineffectual way to teach. There was a quote on the New York State Board of Regents site that said they're looking to keep educational equity at the forefront of decision making. And to us, if you don't reopen schools, that's just not happening, because it's the underprivileged and special needs students who really suffer most from schools being closed. But to us, the social, emotional, educational, financial trauma that we're putting our families through potentially by preventing kids from being back in school with their peers should not be outweighed by protecting them from a virus that poses, to young, healthy people, almost no threat. And I fully understand that there are certainly some parents that would have concern about sending their children back to school in the fall, whether it's because of a specific health issue with their child or rather someone that the child is in frequent contact with. To us, it's imperative that everyone else that doesn't have this fear, the option is given to send their kids back to school. The options need to be there. For those that want to go back, school will be open. And for those that are not comfortable returning in person, they won't be penalized. on a conceptual basis, not necessarily an executional basis, but conceptually it is that simple. And it obviously the logistics need to be figured out, but to us that needs to happen. Now, in conversations I've been having recently with some people who are involved, there seems to be a general thought that the district will follow both the CDC and the state guidelines when it comes to reopening. And there's just two quick things I'd like to say on that. One,
Please wrap it up.
Okay. Well, I guess I don't have to get into that, but my closing thought is we talk about the need for essential businesses to stay open. And if the education of our kids isn't considered essential, then I'm really not sure what is. I guess my question at the end then is regarding the survey that went out on this subject. I'm kind of trying to gather how that is going to be tabulated when there's no quantitative questions that are in it. It's all qualitative responses that are given. So I don't know if anyone has an answer to that.
All right, Mr. Peters, we certainly will ask that, we will see if we can get that question answered by the end of our speaker session for you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good. Rich Steinberg, followed by Sarah Schultz. Rich, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
The Sierra Club, I'm a volunteer with the Sierra Club. The Sierra Club's been working with the Buffalo Public Schools for over 11 years on school solar projects. We see the energy performance contract project with Johnson Controls as the most current example of the district's continued commitment to sustainability. It will bring lower electricity costs, especially important considering the tight budgets this year coming up. It will have reduced the carbon footprint, improved lighting, increased awareness of sustainability with students. Personally, both my children attended Buffalo Public Schools K-12. Thank you all very much. I worked as an occupational therapist in the schools from 1984 to 2012, 28 years. I provided the therapy for students K-12 at schools throughout the district. And therapy at times had to be stopped because children needed their asthma treatments when they became short of breath with me. The Asthma and Allergy Foundation found Buffalo to be 24th on their list of 100 urban asthma capitals in the U.S. We know asthma and COVID-19 is higher in communities of color and is related to poverty and pollution. Since 2018, the 19 Buffalo Public Schools, which now have solar rooftop installations, have reduced their electricity bills by 19%. These same 19 schools eliminate 2,216 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions. This is equal to eliminating the exhaust from 250,000 gallons of gasoline. Wow. The new energy performance contract project is reimbursed by New York State at 98% of the construction cost. The energy performance contract project will save more money for the schools as the solar panels are purchased, not rented, as in the first 19 schools that were done. When the solar panels are at full performance, the 3 new schools receiving rooftop solar installations will see a reduction in their electricity bills by 30 to 40%. Switching out old light bulbs at the schools will also reduce electricity usage, improve lighting for education, and is projected to save an additional $1 million per year in the 23 schools receiving the new LED bulbs. Students benefit from the present solar panels because solar technology is now part of the school curriculum. Another benefit is some students have interned for the solar company who's worked on those panels. The Sierra Club asks that the Board of Education continue with the energy performance contract with Johnson Control for the financial benefits, the educational benefit to our students, the health benefit to communities of color in the Buffalo community at large, and the career benefits to our students' future. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Steinberg. Thank you for your concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Schultz.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for letting me speak at such a busy time of year and so many important things going on. A little bit, I'll try not to be too redundant, and I'll try to speak fast. I'm the chair of Sierra Club Niagara Group. We're a group of over 3,600 members, span 7 counties in Western New York. We've been working very hard to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases that are emitted by industry buildings, which is relevant to this conversation, and transportation. Foundational in the Sierra Club mission is to fight for environmental justice, as well as protecting and defending our natural world. We are so grateful that the leadership of the Buffalo Public Schools have shared our vision for a healthier and more informed student body with the progress that's been made since 2009 with energy efficiency and rooftop solar. But it's important to remember that the frack gas that provides electricity to our schools is not only warming our planet much faster than scientists had predicted, but it's devastating host communities with well water contamination, increased air pollution, and harmful chemical emissions that sicken families, farm animals, and pets. By signing the Climate Leadership and Protection Act last June, Governor Cuomo has directed the Climate Action Council, state agencies, and engaged stakeholders to implement a vision that actually elevates New York State as a climate emergency leader. He's called us to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% from 1990 levels by 2030 and 85% by 2050. This is really remarkable in a time when the EPA, ordered by our federal government, is not even issuing fines for air, water, and hazardous waste violations. I'm going to skip the analysis for the health analysis about particulates because Rick mentioned a lot of that. In our own region, the issue of air pollution has resulted in disaster for our disadvantaged communities. At one point in April, Newsweek reported it was the leading cause of death, disproportionately killing our sisters and brothers of color. Air quality and gas and oil infrastructure is almost always placed in these communities. It is going on right now in North Brooklyn with the National Grid and BK pipeline expansion. We have a role to play in all of this by supporting the performance contract with Johnson Controls to increase renewable energy on the rooftops of our schools. It is financially prudent, but equally important, it makes Buffalo Public Schools an advocate for clean air and a healthier future for our children. This, as you probably have been thinking too, is a time of great examination for myself and I hope for every American. Author, historian, and leading scholar on the subject, Ibram X. Kendi, tells us it is not enough to just be a racist, but that we must, to not be a racist, but that we each must be an anti-racist. And I've been wondering if supporting a clean environment, educating our students in technology for the future is a small step in that direction. By the same token, it is also not enough to be aware and accepting of climate science, but not be an anti-dirty energy production, anti-dirty energy production. We must move the needle for our children and commit to make this world safer, cleaner, and indeed more loving. Let's keep this project moving forward and be part of the solution. Thanks so much for your time and all of the work that you do. I'm so humbled to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you for your advocacy. I'm very interested in learning more about that as it applies to equity within our school system as well as our community. Thank you very much for sharing that information. Thank you. Our next speaker is Kim Hernandez, and I think 24 hours ago, Ann and I were with her at in the same screen. Kim, are you there?
I am here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I come here hopefully to speak for many parents. I get many phone calls from parents saying, how can the few of you, and what they mean is Parent Congress, how can a few of you make decisions for over 3,000 plus families? My answer is always to get involved. My answer is to be a part of SBMT. So speaking of SBMT, I know during this virtual life that we have now, City Honors definitely had SBMT, and a statement from me is that I think all schools should include parents and have SBMT virtually. And I think that they would get more parents than they do when we're in the brick and mortar. Because for many families, I think the time is hard. It's during the day and they work. It's in the evening and they work, or they're preparing for their family. But I think that we should maybe make it a policy to have SBMT during this virtual world, and even after we go back. I think that SBMT should be held virtually so more parents could be part of it. Many parents would like to have a voice in some of the things that are happening, like when the CSE chairs were moved to one location, parents did not have a voice in that. And a lot of parents weren't happy that they could not talk to their CSE chairs. Just hearing that the 611 NYSID classes were now going to be 811s. Parents also did not have a voice in that, but yet our children are affected. You know, as we say in the bargain, we guarantee a pathway to opportunity that will lead to achieve and success in exchange for hard work, commitment, and collaboration. That's a big word, collaboration with our students and our parents. So we need that. We need to make our decisions together. Equality, a big word, trauma informed. You know, we need to include that in everything that we do. Restorative practice. Let's be culturally sensitive to things. All of these things will include everyone, not just kids that have different needs, but everyone, the whole child. So my whole point is, please include parents before you make decisions, and not at the last minute just to get our signature, but really to include us from the beginning, like the reopening plan. Thank you. I would love to see more parents at the meeting, but thank you for having parents from the beginning. Thank you for letting me speak. That is really all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. We appreciate it. Next, we have Wendy Mistrata. Wendy Mistrata.
Good
Are you
evening.
there? Good
Yeah,
evening.
can you hear
Hi.
me? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I'm glad to follow Kim. It was nice to get a little shout out to City Honors, and I appreciate that they had the SBMT for us. I wanted to speak about academic concerns. I've already spoken about these concerns that I've heard about the district's grading plan with several staff, but I wanted to share these equity issues with our policymakers. The first concern was with the development of the plan, which lacked the input from some of our stakeholders. I believe it was this lack of input that resulted in the changing of the dates for the end of the school year, which has led to some confusion. The end of year date was first changed, I think it was June 23rd to June 17th, but then many teachers gave the final date for schoolwork as of last Friday, June 12th. So not everyone was able to still submit stuff through this week. Then there were also challenges associated with the assigning of extra credit. Many parents have just been trusting that if their kids do the work, everything will be fine. And we've had no choice but to trust this because we haven't had access to our grades since March 13th. Unfortunately, the weight of the extra credit may appear fair, but it has not resulted in equitable outcomes. I'm happy to provide my family-specific story. I won't do it now, but if anyone is interested, I know you all know how to reach me. Comparing the first 20 weeks of in-school instruction to 5 weeks of in-school plus 15 weeks of at-home instruction is not an equal comparison. Doubling the third quarter grade has the potential to doubly reward our successful students and doubly punish our struggling students, many of whom are from our neediest families. Any students who are already struggling on March 13th did not have an equitable opportunity to succeed. The extra credit model did not serve these students well for a wide variety of reasons, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, from digital to instruction to support to everything. I remain concerned about the unintended consequences and long-term implications of this plan, which will result in the expanding of the academic divide in our district. Respectfully, I'm asking that you reconsider the doubling of the third quarter grade. thank you for your time tonight, and I greatly appreciate getting to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Mistrada. Next, we will have Jessica Bauer Walker.
Hello, good
Jessica?
evening, Board President Gottman. Thank you for having me. My name is Jessica Bauer Walker. I am a single mother of 2 children of color who attend International School 45, where I also serve as the PTO president and the whole child team co-chair. I'm also a community health worker and the president of the Buffalo Schools Community Health Worker Parent Association. And as community health workers, we work in and with the communities that we are a part of to ensure our people have what they need to be healthy, safe, and supported in a holistic way. People have been doing this since the beginning of time, and right now in this moment, we reflect on the 10th point of the Black Panthers program, who have said, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, peace, and people's community control of modern technology. And so in that spirit, that's a lot of the work that we've been doing. During the pandemic, I have experienced an enormous amount of difficulty as a mother and community health worker trying to be of service. The equity issues have been overwhelming. Families who were struggling before school closure and COVID were thrown into crisis. Many living on the edge between poverty and just making it, lost jobs and critical support. I myself have struggled to get through many days feeling isolated and overwhelmed. The recent incidents regarding police violence and racial uprisings have increased our anxiety, and for ourselves as parents looking out for our children as well as our kids themselves. And I've had it much better than so many who I and my fellow parent leaders have been assisting. The system that we have is not working, and I don't have time to recount all of the stories of the parents and students I've worked with to link to academic support, mental health services, COVID tests, food programs, and more. There have been some phenomenal efforts by individuals at a district and school level, and I thank you for that. But I'm here to amplify the experiences and voices of those the system has failed. And this is not personal to any of you as individual leaders or decision makers or to Buffalo Public Schools. We know from looking at the data that all of our systems are failing Black, Indigenous, and people of color and poor folks. So my request at this time is that district decision makers come into deeper relationship with families and community, as some of my colleagues have raised up. We know that trauma-informed care and culturally and linguistic responsive teaching and practices, restorative justice and practices, are not trainings, they're actually deep level practices that have to be grounded in doing work with those directly impacted and making decisions with us and not for us. And if we really want educational equity, we need to work deeply and directly with parents and caregivers. I appreciate that some of you have come into deeper conversation and relationship with me and other parents and caregivers over the past several months. We may not always have the same experiences or same perspectives, but diversity of thought and believing parent experience in our struggle is so critically important. So what I'd like to encourage us to do as we move into this next phase is really think about how do we have equity in all policies, practices, and programs. I'm here to help and be part of that work, as I think my colleagues are as well. So how can we really work on healing our communities and truly supporting and working with our families? Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica Bauer Walker. Our next speaker is Victoria Perez.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. I'm Victoria Perez. I'm a district parent, and I have the honor of speaking to you on behalf of a wonderful group of called the Hispanics for Advocacy and Representation in Education. We are seeking the appointment of a qualified and experienced administrator with the cultural and linguistic characteristics as well as the bilingual education preparation necessary to operate a specialized school such as the Herman Badillo Bilingual Academy. The Herman Badillo Bilingual Academy is actually the birthplace of bilingual education here in Buffalo, New York. Its enrollment is predominantly 89% Hispanic students, the majority of whom speak Spanish and originate from Puerto Rico. We are looking for an individual who is able to communicate with the families in their native language and who is sensitive to and rooted in the qualities of their culture. I myself am a product of bilingual education. I arrived to Buffalo in 1988 when I was 9 years old, and I was put in the bilingual program at Black Rock Academy, School 51. I have always put major emphasis and importance on keeping my language, my native language, strong because it is a part of my identity, and have passed that on to my son, whom I can proudly say is bilingual. He just graduated from Frank A. Sedita Academy. At that school, he was able to come out of his shell with his Spanish language, and I believe that it started from the top down. The principal and the assistant principal are both bilingual Latinos. The culture that that school has established is one that allows for the celebration of your language and traditions, as well as preparing for the language in the United States. The family engagement that that culture has provided is one of open arms. To be able to walk into a school and be greeted by the principal and assistant principal in Spanish, buenos dias, is something that you cannot put a price on. And that's coming from someone that has been here for 30 years. Put yourself in the position of a parent who is just getting to the United States, who does not speak Spanish, who wants to be involved in their children's education and wants to be engaged as part of the community, but cannot communicate with the administration of the school. Not easy. But putting importance on the need for the principal to be qualified in bilingual education and to have the linguistic requirements is of utmost importance. We want to work with the district in order to find the next principal or Mambadillo so that the students there can thrive in an environment that will lift them up as they learn a new language and a new way of living, and so that the parents find a cultural trust that leads to the utmost parental engagement. We know that things might need to be done a little differently, and we are willing and able to work together in the best interest of the students. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, and we also want to acknowledge and thank the Buffalo Public School District for already meeting with us and starting the conversation. Gracias.
Nada. Thank you very much. Our speaker is Assunta Ventresco.
It's Assunta Ventresca.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's Sue Ventresca. You know me, Sharon.
Sue Ventresca. I can't read my own handwriting.
Yeah, I'm a grandparent of two Buffalo Public School students, and also I'm a community health worker in the Parent Association, and also a member of the School Health and Wellness Collaborative. And this collaborative was created with partnership with parents, and it really took a long time to build trust with parents and have them really partners in working together to create a healthy school environment. Parents and students from CPAC and the refugee population were all trained as community health workers, and they're trained to be co-leaders on their school well-being teams. They participated in the revisions of the wellness policy and advocated for its implementation. And this collaborative is one component of the whole school, whole community, whole child model. I've listened to environmental people, that's part of the model. Mental health, social, emotional, staff well-being, all that is part of the whole child model. So I'd like to support the full implementation of the district wellness policy that's based on the model and the creation, and created in collaboration, not only with parents and students, but with school staff and district staff, administrators, Board of Education, Sharon, and the community members. Every department needs to be aligned with the whole child model. We're experiencing a dual public health crisis, the COVID-19 and systemic racism. These crises have exposed disparities in health education. It highlights the importance of access to health education and health services. All students deserve the equitable access to comprehensive health education, sex ed, social emotional learning, PE. So I ask you to invest in the implementation of the whole child model, and that's the one way the district can ensure our students are stronger, safer, and healthier. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you for still working and helping our district grow strong.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Were we able to get in touch with Deanna Burgess, Mr. Brown?
No, we were not. Unfortunately, it goes to voicemail, so I apologize.
Okay, we're sorry for that. Dr. Cash?
Yes.
Do you have a response to our speakers today?
Sure, I have some notes here. To the first speaker, I believe his name was Matt Peters. We'll thank him for his comments. Certainly, we want to involve as many parents in our reopening work as we possibly can. I do think the survey is important to not just be quantitative, but the nuance of qualitative responses are important so we can gain a full understanding of the reasons that parents put forth for wanting to return to brick and mortar and for wanting safety for all involved to be a primary concern. So we want parents to fill out that survey, get it back to us, and we have experts on staff who can distill and summarize qualitative information as well as quantitative. So complete the survey, get others to be involved in that as well. To the two speakers who spoke about the solar projects in schools, I believe we have an item on the board agenda tonight that addresses those issues. So it sounded to me like those two speakers were appealing to the board to support the item. And certainly for the reasons that they gave, we would concur, I would concur. Kim Hernandez, thank you as always for your sort of tireless advocacy for parents in general, but certainly parents who have children with special needs. Agree with everything that you said, and keep helping us to do better. It is a partnership, and you mentioned 3,000 parents. I think there are probably 150,000 caregivers and close relatives that are raising our 33,000 children. So let's get more parents' voice into the work and figure out ways to do that, and we'll listen. We'll listen to the major themes that emerge and that make sense. I would say to Wendy, to Jessica, and to Kim, please read. I'm going to give you materials that I want you to commit to memory. I want you to internalize it and commit into your soul all of the work that we are doing. I want you to really, really feel it, and I want you to be an advocate for it. I understand your concerns. I've heard them before, but we have done an incredible amount of work together, and I want you to understand it and celebrate it and share it with your colleagues across this city. And then we'll have a more full, robust understanding of what we're trying to do. It was very difficult to make a quick pivot when we got an international global pandemic, and staff went to work within a 1 week, 2 week period to try to come up with something that was equitable. I know how many hours we spent to make the grading practice as equitable as we possibly could, and to provide essential instructional guidance to all parents and teachers and students as we could. And I know how much effort went into that as professionals around this issue, how much research went into it and so forth. So let's continue to advocate about what's strong as well as what's wrong, but mainly about what's strong so that you can add to it and be a complementary force in this work. No board that I've ever worked with and no staff that I've ever worked with has ever been more committed to equity and access and opportunity and quality than this board and to this administration. So we can't get it right and better under this administration, then I don't think we will. And under this board, I don't think we will. So please understand and know all of the work, hard work that we're committed to, devoted to try to make a difference for our children and the whole child aspect of it as well. On the speaker, I forget her name though, I do remember her, I think it was Miss Alsace, the Herman Badillo Bilingual Academy issue. Certainly we want the most qualified person possible. We are committed to bilingual education and bilingual community. We've done a lot under my administration to grow the diversity of our staff and have some outstanding and talented bilingual administrators, both present and recent history. So if you have names or suggestions for the Herman Badillo academy who are qualified. Certainly bring them forth to our human resources, and we'll take a strong look at them. But thank you for your commitment to that issue. Certainly we have it as well. And then last but not least, Sue Ventresca, good to hear from you. The school wellness policy and the whole child model, we are committed to, and we'll continue to make sure that it gets executed. It's a school board policy, So it's my responsibility to implement the wellness policy, and we will. So thank you to all for your comments, and I have staff that will reach out to each of you after this meeting. I've just texted to them, and they'll be reaching out to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. Are there any board members that need to anything in regards to this? So are you comfortable with? The only reason I ask is that to appear to our speakers that the board, the board members are not, there. And typically it responds, but sometimes it's on the heart of someone to say anything. If not, we'll just move forward. Consent agenda. Need a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
So move.
Lou, and
Second.
I need and Larry and Kathy both second at the same time. Are our committee reports, and how do you want to proceed? You want to raise your hand and go first, or you just want to be called out? Okay. Also, for our guests that are listening on, please mute your phone lines. We have about 6 people that are not muted. So who would like to go first with their committee report? Pierce? How about Mr. Petrucci?
Thank you, President Kottman. 2 things. Since the last time the board met, I had the opportunity to participate as the district representative to New York State School Boards Association roundtable with interim commissioner Tahoe from New York State Education Department. We had representatives from all the various regions across New York State, and it was a very robust discussion regarding matters about how the schools are going to reopen, how instruction is going to look in the fall to accommodate and acknowledge not only the summer slide, but the distance learning that we've had since March. A lot of equity also had to deal with in terms of connectivity, devices, how are our kids going forward? This is going to be a long-term plan, making sure that they have the proper support that they need. Teachers, making sure that teachers have the additional training to operate across these various platforms to offer successful instruction. To make sure that our buildings are open in a safe and sanitary manner, to make sure that there's ongoing communication between the state education department, and then when they issue some type of edict that we need to open, that there's enough time for the districts to successfully implement it. But there's a variety of different topics. Those are some of the highlights, and copies of the notes did eventually go out, not as quickly as we like, but they went out, so that was good to see. Also along those same lines, I'm on the New York State School Board Association's legislation committee. We're meeting the first week in August to discuss various legislative topics. I've also been asked to chair the Financial Responsibility Committee. And as such, we were working on 4 different topics to try and address some financial stability, I should say. And the main topics that we're hoping to come across was to monitor the state's proposed early retirement legislation, obtain an estimate from Mr. Pritchard to see what the savings would be and if they would benefit the district, pursue refinancing our debt service before market forces change, enter into an agreement with the City of Buffalo that will provide a notice prior to use of jointly held funds, identify the sources with which the funds will be repaid and a date certain for repayment, and last, explore and execute the energy performance contract, which will not only increase, which will offer savings to the district, but also reduce our carbon footprint as well. Thank you, Ms. President. That's all I have tonight to report.
Thank you, Mr. Petrucci. I appreciate that. Next up, any volunteers? My way, Paulette Woods, Finance and Ops. Do you have a report?
Yes, well, everybody know we had the budget meeting and we're waiting for a couple updates as far as the grant items. It indicated significant position cuts because there were assumed cuts in the grants, and that item needs to be updated. So we're waiting on an update so that those 50 positions won't necessarily be eliminated. The other thing in the budget was the equity piece, which we're waiting or need some input from Dr. Cash on when that's going to be provided or more information. The other item Lou Petrucci spoke to, that the ad hoc committee is going to address making sure that we remain financially stable, that our fund balance is secure, and meeting equitably, positively with the city so that they can just basically, follow the law, do some transparency, separate some accounts. It's not a negative, it's just obeying the law. And the only other thing is I'm waiting for some updates on the achievements of the MBE, WBE policies as far as there were supposed to be some classes, training on how to do business with Buffalo Public Schools, and also a report on the progress that we're making in our commitment to MBE and WBE, every citizen having an opportunity to do business with Buffalo Public Schools. So those are the issues that are primarily from the Finance and Ops Committee, and hopefully we'll have more updates for you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Terrence Hurd.
Yes, good evening, everyone. On Wednesday, June 10th, Education Support Committee meeting, we spoke about 3 different topics. The first topic was central registration. And what we did, we talked about the reports of diversities that's within our schools and within our programs. We had a very, very good meeting, and reports was given about diversity numbers. We talked about how many children we have entering into our programs from the 8th grade into high school programs. And we also talked about our schools of choice. And it was a very good report done by the central registration. I know that we had a lot of parents talk about or ask about the direction of central registration. Is very important to this district also, how we proceed forward. So we believe that throughout the process, we have a great level of diversity and inclusion within our school districts and our programs. So I was glad to hear that. The next report was on Security Services Department. We spoke about police officers in our schools and SRO officers in our schools, which has turned out lately to be a huge issue around the country. And I know there's a couple of groups within the city of Buffalo who's speaking on behalf about removing officers from the schools. And but the report that we had was a great report concerning the officers, the SROs that's in our programs, and also reporting on officers that's doing overtime within our schools. We also spoke that that our SROs are unique and different here in the city of Buffalo than they are across the country because they have a very, very good relationship with our children. We spoke about the number. We had 8 SROs that works within our district, and they're also involved in many programs within our schools. Our SROs have one actually was one of my former students. Michael Norwood is one of the singing cops, and one of my students from Seneca High School, and basketball players. So these young, talented men and women are volunteering with our kids. They coaching basketball and football. They're working with the track within our children, and they also stand over, working with our children, have great relationships. So that's one of the things that we pointed out in the city of Buffalo, how unique they are and how they're working with us. We talked about attendance officers, and we also talked about security officers and the prices. We was waiting for some reports to come back on that, and which some did, that we can report on later. And within the last department was athletic department. I'm sorry for the services. It was Fred Wagstaff and Michael Weiner was the two reporters from the district that spoke upon that. And from the athletic department, we had Michael House and Cecily Owens. They came and spoke about the athletic department, what direction we're going in, some of the new things they're trying to formulate, and the old programs which they are pushing to make sure that they are persistent. We spoke about the Section 6. We spoke about, once again, what direction the sports is going into here in the city of Buffalo. And we also spoke about junior high school sports, so that I'm trying to find another level of sports that we can train and teach our younger kids, not only emphasizing on sports, but also the AP courses that go along with it. So we speak of AP courses, we're talking about from the 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, so that our kids can have a better chance of education, getting college scholarships, and train for scholastic scholarships. And I believe that's about enough to report on right now, but we are waiting for a couple of things to come back. So we'll have more information then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scott, your hand was raised. Speaker on. Speaker.
There we go. I just want to add on the security and RSOs that we also talked about off-duty officers that are assigned to 5 of our buildings, at least 5 of our buildings daily, where questions were raised about the cost from us as a district for those off-duty officers, as well as contract or agreement or policy that oversees their functioning. And those questions have been submitted. And I just want that known for the public that might be listening, that we are following up on that information.
Okay, Mr. Scott, those are some reports that I said that we were waiting to come back on. I didn't specifically go in detail about which reports they were, but I also was giving the district time to formulate that information so that it could be readily spread for the public and the board.
Yeah, but I just want to distinguish, though, you mentioned the RSOs. What we learned about last week was there's RSOs, which are trained, but there's also off-duty police officers that aren't trained that are assigned to buildings. That was the piece that you didn't share.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's a good thing. We need to know all the parties that are involved in our schools, and we do need to look into each one. Okay, so that's what we're working on. I'm sure will assist us. I have another hand raised, Dr. Evans Brown.
Yes, I wanted to also mention in Terrence's report, there were 700 students that returned to Buffalo schools from charter schools. And I think we're waiting on some information from that as well.
146.
For 746, you said, Terrence?
746, okay.
Okay. And I think, board members, as we move forward in dealing with this issue, we do really need to know who those students are. And we need some sort of assessment to be done so that we can understand who is being returned to us and for what reason. Okay, moving forward, let's see. Larry Scott, do you have anything to report on your ad hoc today? Can't hear you, Larry.
Just quickly, I just want to update the public in case they don't know that the Board of Regents reversed their decision on Buff Psi. I personally think that was the right decision. They shouldn't have voted to close a school that was performing quite well. But coming before us right now, we have 3 new charters from the State Education Department, 2 of which are chains from other states, and one of which we've done quite a bit of research on and determined they've been in the Washington Post twice for conflicts of interest as well as financial abuses. And just today we learned that a charter that's starting in September will be moving into a place where they're partnering with the developer, Carl Palladino, former school board member, who was removed by the state from this Board of Education, and it is his company they're partnering with to begin a charter school this September here in Buffalo.
What
And
school is that?
that's Creek Academy.
Creek Academy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that.
Their
When
full
your
name is
next
Buffalo Creek Academy.
Creek Academy. Okay. Do you know when your next ad hoc committee will be, Mr. Scott?
Nothing scheduled right now.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, does anyone else want to raise their hand? Let's see, Dr. Brown, do you have anything to report on today?
Me, Dr. Brown?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Dr. Brown Hall is the other one now. We have to give, he's hyphenated now.
Kathy's hyphenated.
She is too, yeah.
I'm hyphenated, Evans Brown. I make it real specific. We didn't meet as an ad hoc this week. We were more or less tabling our process until we get more information from some of the cabinet people in terms of reopening, because I know New York State is offering webinars. I didn't make the first one. I think it was this week. Did anybody attend?
I attended. I attended. I'll share out on it.
Okay, so you could share out on that. And but we're still polishing what we need to do, but we're trying to seek the lead from the district first. We don't want to duplicate services.
I understand. Thank you.
Did you have anything, Ann, for Hope to add?
Actually, I think you covered that really well. Thank you very much. And I can add a little bit from the work session as well, but we are waiting to hear some more to get some leads. And then after that, we're going to look at holding stakeholder forums, stakeholder groups after the plan, make comments about high-level comments on the plan that we're given, and we'll move forward from there.
Okay, well, why don't I, since you're talking about this, the New York State Regents invited me to participate in a webinar, and the webinar was about reopening of schools, and it is on their website. There were about 8 topics that were discussed. I happened to be, it was labor and human resource. Interesting, the conversations that were shared out at the end. All of us are consistent in that we need to know we can do what we're going to do. And it's very difficult trying to plan at this point. But they made sure that they had each group address the in-person scenario, the virtual scenario, and a combination of each. And I would like to say one of the biggest things that stood out for me in that committee is the amount of hours, personal hours, that are accumulating from staff as a result of not being in the classrooms, and how that will impact possibly students in the future as far as learning, and that there's a big possibility that there will be a need for many more substitute teachers in the very near future because of the amount of hours that are accumulating. My particular ask, the governor comes up with a creative ideal in regards to how those hours can do not necessarily have to be used, or maybe can be used for vacation time or personal time at the end of their contract. One district shared that he is a very small district, has over 650 hours to be used by their staff. So it's going to be interesting to deal with this. But just that since you guys were talking about that, thank you so much. Next, we have, if Jay is satisfied, we have Dr. Revere. Do you have anything to report out, followed by Jennifer McCuzy?
Yes, I have 2 things to report out. First, on the student achievement work session that was held on June 10th, we covered a summer school update, specifically as it applies to special education, since the governor recently wrote an order allowing face-to-face summer school for special education students. although the district is going to remain virtual out of a concern of health and safety for students. This was also covered in this CPAC meeting last night that we attended. We also discussed the reopening of schools. This was before the task force and comment period was held, but as Dr. Evans-Brown covered for me, thank you again for that. Our ad hoc reopening task force is waiting for feedback from all of these groups, and what's happening is that there's a district reopening committee, there's also a state reopening committee, and they're trying to coordinate and gather information, and then we'd like to become involved after that point. The survey out to collect information from parents, as one of our speakers made reference to add to the amount of data and the context in which parents are experiencing distance learning and also how they're feeling about reopening. We also discussed textbook adoption for a social studies textbook, which has a very strong focus on diversity, which I believe from the comments of the board members, it's very robust, looks really good. We're really pleased. I personally am very pleased to see this particular social studies textbook. It was high time for an update, and it's really nice to see us be able to move forward on that. Okay, unless anybody has questions or comments about those two pieces, I'd like to turn to the year-end report from the CPAC meeting and CPAC committee. I will go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and, as CPAC's liaison, I'm going to report out on their activities for the year. They are, so just to remind people, CPAC is the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. It's comprised of one board liaison, myself, although everybody is welcome to attend, and 18 parent and guardian representatives of BPS special education students. It was a transition for CPAC because there was a change in leadership and also a change in their parent services coordinator position, but they moved forward with a robust agenda for the year. So they've worked on the following objectives. They've delivered training to parent representatives and family in the areas of effective advocacy, learning how to create inventories, effective inventories about their children, the overview of the individual education plan and transition and graduation requirements, worked on increasing their community visibility and presence by participating in Community Saturday Academies, both in person and virtually during closure in the months of December, February, and March. Worked individually on support and advocacy with families through the CPSE, that's the Committee on Preschool Special Education, and CSE, the Committee on Special Education process, both formally and informally. They also assisted parents and students undergoing suspension and manifestation disability reviews. They worked on updating the website to reflect the change in leadership and organization. They created an email listserv and was able to disseminate more information to families in between the monthly board meetings. They delivered presentations and connected families to services during the COVID closure. And they're currently working with BPS on the Buffalo Reopening Committee, so they are represented on that reopening committee as well as Say Yes Summer Camp Focus Groups, the Restorative Justice Project, and Say Yes After School Committee. And they're also involved with the other district parent groups. And with that, I can take any questions or comments.
Any questions in regards to this? Anne, I sat in on the meeting last night, and I feel that our parents feel that a lot of decisions, and they spoke on that today, are being made without involving them. Want to see if we can work on some sort of a way for parents to feel that they are more engaged. I somehow or another, there appears to be a gap between the parents understanding that the board members are here to represent parents, students at the table. I want to work on, I don't know if that means that the board needs to have conversations with them so that they can feel comfortable that the board understands what's going on and to the degree that we can in their lives. But I don't want that gap to continue to grow because for whatever reason, you know, you've been consistent with this for as long as I've been on the board. You've been working this angle. Whatever reason, it does not melt down into that Ann is a part of who we are for the most part. And so they feel that their needs are not being met. And I don't get that because everything you talk about or the majority of the work that you do is surrounding the special ed work that you're trying to make sure that that voice is heard. And I just feel that maybe it might, if we have maybe a conversation with them, the parents, so that they can talk directly to the board, that maybe we may help. But there is a problem anytime decisions are being made and they are not a part of the formula. But I think sometimes we're lacking in communication and more than just that, as far as getting our constituents involved. But we do represent parents and we do represent students. I certainly don't represent the unions that sit at this table, and I certainly don't represent the administrative staff. I'm here just as you are to stand up and try to make it a better day for our children. So let's have a conversation with them, Ann, to see how they can, how we can work as a board to make them feel more comfortable that their needs are being met. And then so that we can inform the district that they need to be at the table, and so that they can have their concerns addressed. Maybe they didn't hear the meeting that said that the state guidelines went from 611 to 811. And maybe there's an assumption that we did that without, you know, clarity or whatever. So let's work on trying to maybe have a roundtable or something with our special ed parents so that they can feel that we are there for them. Does anybody understand what I'm trying to say here? Because every time we talk to that group of, they're always feeling as if we're not a part of them. Jennifer had one up. And I'm sorry.
I'd like to respond to address me directly. So one of the things that does happen, especially for our parents of students with special needs, and I am in communication with everyone you saw there last night.
I know you are.
One of the things that tends to happen is that decisions are discussed and start to be made. Parents often aren't notified until the decisions are right on the table or about to be made. And I think that what may help, and Dr. Cash spoke to this in his response to the speakers, you know, he said, let's get more parent voice into the process. And I think that's the key here. I think we need more parent voice earlier in the process. And I think the idea of holding more discussions, more stakeholder groups, of getting more sense of what parents really need at various points is going to help. And it's only going to help the district because then it helps parents express what they're feeling, where things are working, maybe where things aren't working, and then the district can respond. One of the problems, though, is that it's hard to cast a wide enough net in all the various communities that BPS represents. And I think we need to, as a board, think about how we can work with the district to create a channel of communication that's effective, that reaches out and represents equitably all of the communities that are a part of the Buffalo Public Schools. For me personally, I am extremely willing to do that for the community of parents with special needs. But I'm also extremely willing to do that because as an at-large board member, I represent all of the parents and students in this district. I just have a personal background with special ed, and so I have personal feeling with it. But I'm willing to do that in any area. And so I'm more than happy to work with you and any board member and the district and Dr. Cash to ensure that that parent voice is heard and that parents feel that they're being responded to.
Dr. Revere. Jennifer's hand was up first and then Mr. Hertz.
Thank you, President Cotman. I would like to remind the board before our, you know, all this had happened, that we all agreed to be more proactive and get out into the community more. And we literally sat in a 2-hour session with the district 100% behind us in order to create forums. And these, well, forums are, we're discussing how it was gonna look, whether it was gonna be a forum, whether we were gonna have meetings, but we were opening up in different areas across the city, depending on districts, depending on, you know, availability of staff and board members, but we were opening up that opportunity. And I kind of wanna, because we're, you know, we're very public right now about talking about this, but this has been going on for many, many years. And I personally would like to put some onus folks who represent the parent groups to bring the parents. I hear you, I hear your representation, but I do not hear the parents. I believe that when we have these meetings, these virtual meetings, I've been on wellness calls where parents are available, speaking to parents directly when we, you know, when we have how many constituents that we deal with, there could be absolutely no one to say, you know, that I haven't been out there or anyone else hasn't been out there. I believe this board, compared to the board that we had previous, we are all, you know, we're all moving in the same direction. We're taking our own way to get there, but we're moving in the same direction. And we are definitely reaching out to constituents in a way and being more communicative in a way that I hadn't seen previous with myself. So I would like to see that the parent Congress, and I had brought this up in executive session by putting the parent Congress, if you're a part of this group, all 5 parent Congress members, I know when, you know, what's happening because you're bringing it to the table and you're representing all these families and you're stating that they come to you. Have them come to us. And Dr. Cash and Dr. Brown Hall, if we can figure out, if we have to open up an entire school and social distance ourselves all over the place to hear them, I believe that's something we can do. We have been literally saying, bring people to the table. We have the meetings, there are wellness meetings, there's a CPAC meeting, there's your meetings. It's either we come to you or we get chastised for not being a part of what it is you're speaking about in your meetings. I would like to see real collaboration around what we can do as parent Congress leaders, the district and the Board of Education to open up a space for all of your parents to be able to address us. Each and every person in all of those committees in some way to hold and facilitate trainings where you can access information, and the district has agreed multiple times to be able to get that information from folks. I myself held 2 forums where they got information, people put up, you know, we had the issues up, they put sticky notes of what their issues were, it was sent back to the district and the district went through the data and brought it back. These are all very possible. So I get a little bit, you know, I get a little bit hot under the collar when I hear that we don't communicate at all. I am not saying, and trust me on this, the reason I am on this board is because I'm not saying that parents are always privy to decision making. That is definitely something we need to work on. We are not saying that we do this in a grand way. Dr. Cash has never said 100% we bring everybody into the fold. But if we don't work together and keep pointing fingers, we're never going to get anywhere. So I believe all of us, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I do know that we all agreed in order to figure out a way to bring community together, the more than just this 3 minutes they get to get on a call or get in front of us on a podium. So please, I understand where you're coming from, but I'd love to see that some people sit in the back of the room and bring the parents to the front and let us know what they're really feeling. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrence Hurd. Then Dr. Brown, Dr. Evans Brown.
Okay, first I'd like to say that I concur with you, Dr. Rivera, of your concerns and the work that you're doing. And if you need help in any field, any way, I'm here to help support, and I'll be here to help you. After that, I would like to say that our special needs children are very important in the city of Buffalo, and we have a higher rate. I believe it's 47%. A higher rate than in the past, and it's something that I can tell you that I grew up. I was always taught that there's not problems, there's opportunity. So right now we have opportunity to reach out to more parents and work with more groups to help with the problems and issues. And I can openly tell you that Dr. Cash and I don't agree with everything. we have our battles, but Dr. Cash and the staff has done a fine job. With the parent groups, Dr. Reynolds, Tanja Williams. I've never seen so many forums, so many groups get together, so many meetings to reach out to the parents and to the community ever in my life. I've never seen a district perform like this. And I would also like to add in that the amount of special needs students that we deal with in this district, maybe we should look at other districts, larger districts, to see how they handle it, how they're performing, and see their also. Because if anybody complain, I can honestly tell you that this board, this administrative staff has put tireless hours in, day and night, trying to think what's going on and these issues. So I stand with the district and this board and Dr. Cass, and as we move forward. So
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Evans. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Evans Brown.
Oh, yes, I agree with everything that everyone said. I think that hands down, this district does a wonderful job with parents. I believe that we need to charge every one of our parent groups an additional responsibility to reach out to more parents. We can do better. Work in the community.
Absolutely.
A lot of parents, and a lot of them do not participate in these groups. I don't have the magic bullet, but I do know that we could do better and reach out to some of the hard to reach parents and get them involved.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm glad we had a discussion on this. I want to remind the board that if we heard today, we've heard all year long that the parents don't feel that they're being respected and involved in the process. And with that said, I looked up the word communication, and it says the successful conveying or sharing of ideas and feelings. So if our parents do not feel that their needs are being met, have not done a very good job in communicating. And so we have to figure out a way, and I will ask Kim Hernandez and Wendy Mistrada and Jessica Bowers and Neil Dobbins what we can do better. And then the staff has to make it a priority. I can remember there have been times that the staff has promised PAC organization things, and they went around and did not do it. And I have said in meetings at least once a year, I make it to this meeting that they had yesterday. So let's work on that. In regards to some of the things I've been involved in as far as communicating or dealing with our community, sitting on the Say Yes Operation Committee, things that they are working on, which is really near and dear to our heart, is preparing our students for college this year. They were able to get computers and things like that. One of the issues I do want to talk with David Russ, and I did send out, and I will send out if I haven't, but I think I did, that there's a webinar coming up on the problems that our children are encountering on campus and with the educators that are there that I don't think is currently being addressed. And I want to sit in on that webinar and then have a discussion at the operating committee table. I was very proud of our district staff members, Dr. Fatima Morel and staff, with their pandemic virtual meeting regarding inequities associated with the COVID virus. It was a very, very good a webinar or seminar. In addition to that, the Parent Summit, which was a 2-day process, which was off the hook. I was very pleased to hear the amount of people that participated in that. The rally that our educators and our community partners put together 2 Tuesdays ago, or was it a week ago? I can't even remember. It's been so long. This is driving you crazy. it was off the hook as far as the amount of people that came out. And it was a Black Lives Matter. And I want to be clear, okay? All lives matter. But at this time, the fire is in the Black Lives Matter house. Okay, so that's why everyone is rushing to that house to put the fire out. So let's be clear with that, because sometimes people think, you know, that you're trying to slight other people. No, you're not. There's a major crisis in this country. And I found out there was an additional gentleman who was murdered. His name was Derek Scott. He was murdered probably 30 days before George Floyd. It was the exact same scenario. And I've also written an article that was in one of our local newspapers during over the past couple of weeks or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is that I don't always get in on at the end of these meetings, but my day typically starts somewhere between 8 and 8:30, dealing with issues and things like that. So we're moving forward. But I do want to work on that communication piece, because the people who are trying to keep our district divided are trying to paint a picture that this board is not concerned or is not hearing the needs of the people. And that simply is not true. That's not. I work with these individuals, and I can certainly say for the most part, almost every board member is functioning very well, doing a great job. And the ones that are struggling, if they need something else to do, we can certainly find it for them, I'm sure. Anyway, and moving forward, if that's completed, Dr. Cash, if you don't have anything to say on that topic, we'll move forward and go into our next item.
Proceed, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Do you want an update from Executive Affairs?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer. I thought.
No, that's okay. We got.
My apology.
We got into a heavy conversation.
You're right. My apology. I'm sorry, Jennifer. Executive.
No, you're good. You're good. We got into a heavy conversation. So.
Well, I knew you had spoken, but I'm sorry.
So Executive Affairs met earlier this month, and it was kind of a quick meeting, as we had a executive committee at the end of the meeting, but we did cover a lot. We are, as a board, it's our responsibility to make sure that the superintendent's evaluation is carried out due to all of the everything that's been happening. Dr. Cash, didn't have the normal time that he would have to be able to prepare. And unfortunately, we had to give him kind of a small window to work with. But he is, he did exactly what he needed to do. He was very honest about asking for the time he needed. We worked it out. He turned in the documents for our evaluation, including his own inserts and materials. We received that We received that yesterday. He does have and I haven't had a chance. I have some personal situations happening currently, so I haven't had a chance to see if the self-evaluation has been put out to us. Is that part of the documents that we received today?
Yesterday, yes.
Yesterday.
Okay, so, and this is all for the public to know. There's, documents that we receive for us to be able to, and especially our new board members, for them to be able to review, understand, and digest how the tool works in order to do the assessment. And he also includes, and especially now so important, so of course, whatever time he needed, we gave to him. With everything happening with COVID and the shutdown, a lot of the goals that he had put in place and we approved in November of last year, of course, had to be adjusted based on, completely turning everything upside down. So we took all that into consideration. We now have his evaluation Monday at 4. We will be meeting as a board, and board members, if you have not yet looked at the tools and really identified, how the tools work with the goals, please reach out not just to the board members who have done it before, but to district and staff for any help, so that we can make sure on Monday when we all meet in executive session, we can go over our own evaluations and compare to Dr. Cash. And then on Tuesday, again, we will be in a special meeting in executive session where Dr. Cash will be present in order for us to go over the entire evaluation with him. The way that this all works is we're supposed to really have this in place before July 1st of every year, where there's a reorganization meeting of the Board of Education. So that's all in place. Monday at 4, for anyone who needed a reminder, we will be in executive session going over as a board, just the board, our own evaluations of the superintendent. And Tuesday we'll go over all of that with the superintendent at 4 as well in executive session. So on that, and then we also had brought up, again, thank you, Hope J, for reminding me before the work session that the board wanted to also include, and it's now in policy, that we do a self-evaluation of ourselves as well. So, in order to make sure that we do, we evaluate the superintendent, we need to check ourselves too to see where we're coming from and how we're going about it, and see how we can do that moving forward and put that in place for upcoming boards. So know that that's going to be coming down the line. And in this month, we're also going to be looking to decide on that tool, whether we'll use the same tool that we use for the superintendent's evaluation for ourselves or not. We have to have that meeting and discuss that. So that's coming down the pipeline. Also, during executive session, we just kind of furthered and let the public know about the ad hoc committees that have been in place. You have heard the updates from each of the committees. They're all in place. We're doing the work. I mean, the committee that I am on is the Fiscal Stability and Revenue Regeneration, or we're trying to get some money and be stable with it. That's what we're doing in that committee. Yeah, there was conversations around having that meeting that Paulette had, Ms. Woods had talked about with the city, just to find out, and put to rest rumors and figure out what's happening with, this back and forth and the accounts and the whole nine. Just put that in place and call it a day. But I'm looking forward to that meeting. Other than that, unless there's any questions, we just basically are moving forward with the evaluation as far as executive affairs is concerned.
Thank you, Vice President Makouzi. That said, what I'm going to do is let board members know toward the end of the meeting if there's some additional conversation or something that you would like to talk about. We'll open up the agenda at that point. But in moving forward, may I have a motion to accept at this point the consent agenda? Okay. I have Paulette and I have Lou. Okay, thank you.
Board Chair Cotman, I have two items that need to be pulled from the agenda.
Thank you.
9C, line 9, and item 20B. Does the board need to know any more, or are they okay with that? What would you?
Well, 9C, just so that the board, I think the board is aware of why 9C, is being pulled.
Not just line 9, correct.
9C9.
Line 9C9 is not being pulled. Okay, and why item at 20B is being pulled at this point?
Because we're going to negotiate a new lease. We didn't use as many parking spaces at MST as we had anticipated, and so we're going to renegotiate and get a better price.
Well, this is Nate. I just want to be clear, if you don't mind, Doc.
Sure.
The lease that's in board docs, we actually did renegotiate it last year. The one you have in board docs was for 100 spaces. Last year, because we didn't need 100, we went down to 25, and that's not what's in the board packet. So we need to correct that, as well as also take a look and see how many spaces we truly need over there. A lot of those spaces were for special education folks, SST folks that are over there. So I'm going to speak with Kim Holscher and work with her. And if we need to renegotiate them based on the data I get back, then we will do so before we bring that item back.
And Nate, can I? Okay, can I speak to that? I visit that school on a somewhat regular basis, and I've often asked or noticed that there's no one parking in those spots. And last year I brought this up. You know, I think truth be told, the people are uncomfortable about crossing the street over there, and they are not using those parking spots. And I'm concerned that anytime there's money being spent and we're not it properly. So, conversation. Okay, so Lisa.
For 9C9, I don't think I'm aware of why that item's being pulled. Looks like a retirement.
It's been rescinded.
Yep.
That's rescinded, okay.
Okay, all right. Hands are up. Unfortunately, Darren, somehow or another, we haven't worked out this exception report. So does anyone have anything on the first 5 items that they have an exception to?
But Mrs. Cotman, we emailed their exception list to all board members, and we didn't get any exceptions back. We did get questions from board members, and the detailed answers were sent out earlier today. So I believe the questions have been answered. And then I did text board members earlier to see if there were any additional questions, and I got no additional questions. So I don't believe there are any additional questions for the board packet.
Okay, great. Is everyone in agreement with that? Okay, so with that said, can we do a roll call vote?
Ms. Cotman, I do believe you were going to recuse from the instructional line 1.
Have that.
Yeah, she can note that during are we ready for a roll call, Madam President?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, so just to be clear, 9C, line 9 has been pulled, as well as 20B. How do you vote, Dr. Evans-Brown?
No exception.
Mr. Hurd?
No exceptions.
Ms. J?
No exceptions.
Ms. McCosey?
No exceptions.
Mr. Petrucci?
No exceptions.
Dr. Rivera?
No exceptions.
Mr. Scott?
No exceptions.
Ms. Woods?
No exceptions.
And President Elton Cotman?
Exception, item 9B, line 1. Other than that, no exceptions.
Is that an exception or?
That is a recuse. That is a recuse due to familiar relationship. What would you put?
Okay, that's noted. So then otherwise, no exceptions in the recusal 9B, line 1?
Right.
Okay. Consent agenda passes. Thank you.
Council Kuzman. All right, so let's move forward. We don't have any resolutions. Our consent agenda to go into executive session today. At this point, into executive session, and I read the terms for going into our bereavement. Mr. Petrucci, I believe you have the list, and we would take a moment of silence. I'm sorry, a moment of silence on behalf of those. We will go into our executive session. When we come out, we will do our unfinished business and conclude our meeting. We'll hand up is Jennifer McCousy.
We'll do the unfinished business then. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Any concerns to go back to unfinished business, or are we looking at about the message that I sent you?
Finished business is after we come out of executive session. Okay. All right, and we will end the meeting with that. Okay. All right,
Okay.
so Mr. Petrucci, would you do the honors, please? Mr. Petrucci, you need to put your speaker on.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon.
Yes.
All right, so if we could rise. Bereavements for the June 17th, 2020 meeting of the Buffalo Board of Education. On January 12th, Clydeen Bass Amaker, a retired Buffalo teacher. On February 19th, Jean McNamara, a retired Buffalo teacher. March 26th, Ralph J. Monahan, a retired Buffalo teacher. May 25th, Richard Stephen Pychek, father of Richard Pychek, a TOSA coordinator with the Department of Social Studies. And last, June 8th, Saberny Thompson, a retired Buffalo teacher. May we have a moment of silence. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Petrucci. All right, so we are about to go into executive session. May I have a motion to go into executive session for the following purposes? 1, to discuss collective negotiations with Local 264 Food Service. 2, to discuss the negotiations of an MOU with the City of Buffalo for the installation to stop armed cameras on First Students Transportation vehicles. 3, to discuss the discipline of a specific district employee. 4, pending litigation with the Buffalo Council of Supervisors and Administrators. And 5, for the purpose of receiving legal advice. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Jennifer, second Paulette. Thank you. All right, how about, how much of a break do you guys need so that they can clear the lines?
Yeah, I'm going to go up to the boardroom, President Bellingham, so I'll need about 5 minutes.
How about you, team members? Is 5 good?
Yes.
5. Executive session and did not take any legal action. We have 2 that I would like to carry forward. Motion number 1, may I have a motion authorizing the superintendent to prefer Section 75 charges against employee D.B. May I have a motion? Kathy Brown, and second by Larry Scott. Second, may I have a motion authorizing the superintendent to negotiate and execute? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. Let me go back. I'm sorry. I'm trying to go home. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Do we need to take a roll call vote on this one?
I don't think. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All hands are up. Any opposed? Sorry about that, people. Trying to get through.
It's not here, so
It may have a motion authorizing the superintendent negotiate and execute an MOU with Local 264 Food Service strictly limited to the summer of 2020 to provide an increase not to exceed $1 per hour for those with the title of monitor and not to exceed $2 per hour for those with the title of commissary staff and site super. Second, Jennifer. May I have a roll call? May I have a all in favor? Any opposed? One non-vote. Hope J, are you voting on this? We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm not opposed.
All in favor then? Okay.
President Common, I just want to note for the record here, so people who are taking notes of this and can adequately reflect the record, that on those 2 motions, all 8 board members present voted in favor. Lou Petrucci is not in attendance right now, so he did not cast a vote. And I just want that noted so the minutes can be correctly reflect that.
Thank you, Council. Okay, now we're entering our last stage of our business meeting, unfinished business. Please raise your hand. I think Dr. Revere, you have something, and I think Terrence Hurd has something. Jennifer McCousey has her hand up. Okay.
They can go first.
I'll make my motion. I'd like to make a motion to allow Board of Education members to attend the New York State School Boards Association annual law conference being held virtually July 21st and 22nd. The cost of registration is $130 for each board member that attends.
Okay, can we get a second? Can it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any board members that are opposed? 8 board members voted in favor, with the exception of Lou Petrucci not being present. Next, Terrence Hurd.
Yes, I wanted to speak with the board about forming an ad hoc committee for our athletic department. And I believe that that the direction that we want to go in is looking forward for athletics is making sure AP classes and start working in the 6th grade, looking to build junior high sports programs, and also following suit with the Ralph Wilson project. We understand that we have new people that's sitting in these positions that's overseeing it under the direction of Dr. Cash, but also we're looking as going forward, but making sure that we get a number of kids that can qualify for college scholarships. We asked for a report to be submitted, which I'm still waiting on, for a number of kids this year that applied and had athletic scholarships to colleges, and just waiting for that answer to come back. And also just want to make sure that we can find ways to afford more, because we know that even though we're talking about sports, this is a key way for some of our kids to come to school and go to school. It's one of the key factors. And another reason is by giving them the adequate classes starting at 6th grade, we can put a better grades out, grades, attendance, performance, less it help cure attitudes and everything of our kids. So this is something that's very important.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there any other discussion on this? Does the board feel that this is an admirable ad hoc committee that we can expand and dig deeper into providing, expanding resources for our children? Is everyone in agreement with that?
I definitely, as current executive affairs, I definitely want to explore this. I also want to make sure that, we take into account the committee that's already been formed and carry that on and see how we can merge those. If not, just continue the committee. We'll figure it out, but there is a need to, now that there's new folks in place, we need to make sure we're in the same page with everybody and just on the same page. No overstepping, but on the same page.
No problem. Well, correct me if I'm not wrong. Nate, you're aware of that. That committee that was formed as a result of the negotiations with the teachers union, that was a specific committee just to be working with union. Is that not right? Something more to that committee.
That was just a BTF district committee on the athletic department.
So there's a need to expand. Okay, so if everyone's in favor of that, I can move that forward. Do we need to vote on that, Nate? We can do it officially, but something that we can just agree to do, right? On another ad hoc committee.
Yeah, per policy, it's within your discretion, President Cottman, to establish ad hoc committees for a specific purpose and appoint the members.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the people who want to work on that committee to volunteer. And then I'm sure from what I'm hearing, I have Terrence, I have Jennifer, right? And then there's one other person that can go on that committee. So you think about it. And if not, I will certainly assist with that as well. Jennifer, is that why your hand was up?
No, I just wanted to make a quick announcement.
Okay.
Before you go, Jennifer, let me do the second part of it.
Sure.
Dr. Cash mentioned something that we should look into in the previous meeting, and that was a health board. And I have reached out and spoken to some doctors who might be interested in help formulate a health board, of course, under the direction of Dr. Cash. And moving forward, it might be something that we'll need to work with parents and talk about the effects of the coronavirus, how it affected our communities, and moving forward. So I don't know if we can form a committee or a board. I'm not quite sure how this actually works, but we need to look into the issue of having a health board with a licensed PhD on board that can help assist us in our goals.
Mr. Hurd,
okay.
Let me give you an update on that. I have four outstanding, four of the very best in the region that have responded to my request. I've had phone conversations with them, and they're sending me their bio briefs at this point, and you're going to be very impressed. I'm very pleased that they accepted my offer. And there's one more that I'm looking for a board of 5 to advise us. So if you have a name of some people that I could look into and talk to, please submit those to Darren Brown, and I will follow up. As soon as these 4 members have submitted their information that I've requested, I'll compile it and send it out to the board for their review as well. They're going to be terrific in helping us prepare to reopen.
Okay, so do you need an ad hoc as a result of this? Would you like an ad hoc, Dr. Cash?
Of the board?
Yeah.
Not so much of the board, I'm not sure. This is going to be like an advisory committee for the health part. If you think that it could be useful, I have no objection to it. I just don't want to see you have so many committees that it affects your effectiveness. We've got a lot of big pressing issues we're trying to work on now, and I don't want to lose sight of those. But I would like these 5 individuals to meet with the board and to have some conversations. I told them it would be a commitment of about 12 hours between now and the start of school to help us, and okay. They are outstanding.
Okay, so is it possible, rather than doing a formal ad hoc, since you're already working this, is that we just assign a board member to be a part of it?
That would be fine.
Okay, so if no one is opposed to this, Mr. Hurd, would you like, since it was your idea to form an ad hoc, would you like to possibly be a part of that, or is there someone else that wants to be a part? Because there's a lot of stuff going on in this district right now that deals with this issue. There really is. Kathy, Dr. Brown?
Yeah, I was going to say, and I'm just thinking that we are an ad hoc already with the reopening ad hoc. So it kind of would make sense for us to be a liaison to that.
Yeah, yes, that does. And I was going to have this body speak to that committee, Kathy.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. If nobody's opposed,
makes really good sense.
As long as the work is getting done. Okay, I wanted to talk one more about one other ad hoc for the summer. Typically, every summer I take on a project. So this year, my summer project is going to be dealing with the equity, the resolution of equity, and in writing and assisting with writing the policy, as well as people all over York are reaching out to me about this resolution. And so I would like to form, I don't know if an ad hoc, but I was going to form for the summer an equity resolution. It was associated with trying to identify. The parents have reached out. I've had people from higher institutions of learning reach out. People are just been reaching out in regards to this particular resolution. And so what we want to try to do is for the summer is to analyze it, have an idea of direction, and then to present it to the superintendent and staff, and of course to the board, and then determine which way we want to go and which avenues we want to take. This is a big elephant, so it's not something that we can just eat all at once. So, we're going to have people that can help us with this. So that's a committee that I am going to do, or I want to do for the summer, the equity resolution, which will work on the policy as well as defining areas of concern. Those are, so we have the athletics ad hoc. We're going to forward the health piece over to the restart, the reopening ad hoc, and we're going to do the equity resolution policy ad hoc for the summer. That'll be our summer project. Fer, you had one thing you wanted to share?
Yes. So as some of you know, over the first few months of the year, I conducted a listening tour with many of my schools. Only 2 were missed for obvious reasons. And the one of the charges for each of the principals was to bring students down to speak to me about what their take on attendance issues might be. And the conversations that we had, and I have all the notes, I still have to get them to you all. But the conversations that we had and just the input that they had was really impactful, and has kind of helped me through, you know, thinking about how we do things. They are so full of just ideas that sometimes I think we don't tap into. And I'm saying all this to say I'm trying to work with and spoke with Nate to see if there's any legal barriers in reaching out to those students in some way, shape, or form, and bringing them, you know, a balloon or a gift card or something like that. Figure out whether or not each school, you know, the students all come to one location, or if I go to their houses. I'm just inviting, I know it's only 4 at a time, if I'm not mistaken. If anybody would like to come with me, I'll put the schedule out as to when and how I'm going to go about just uplifting these children. The original intent was, you know, if none of this was to have gone down, was to bring them all together for a luncheon. And once those details were in place as to when and where, I was going to invite the board to sit with them and just recognize them, because they're just amazing young folks. We're talking 8th graders, 7th graders. Riverside doesn't have a graduating class, so they're 11th graders. And come the 24th, I'm going to be reaching out to principals once they're done closing out grades to get their information and their mindsets as to how, you know, I can either meet with these kids together or individually. So I'm just extending the opportunity if anybody wants to come with, once all those details come into place. You know, I'll put the schedule out for you all.
Thank you. Okay, Paulette Woods. Paulette Woods.
Yes, when we were going over the items on the agenda, I had just wanted to point out that one of the items was a food service food truck to support our farm to school program. It was paid for $150,000. It was paid for from grant funding from New York State Agriculture and Markets. And for me, that's just something that I just had wanted to point out and commend, because being from a rural area, a lot of the business in Western New York is farms, and getting fresh foods and supporting that part of our economy is important to me. And we had a number of groups working on that area of growing our own food, farm to school food. And I just wanted to commend that they've got this $150,000 truck, and find out a little bit more about it in the future. But I'm just glad we're still moving in that area.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that the board would like to talk about? Okay. If all minds are settled, may I have a motion to adjourn? I see hands up. I didn't hear any. Was it? Second, I guess, by Paulette. First by Dr. Evans-Brown, by Paulette. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. And thank you, Dr. Cash, for your leadership. And Nate, thank you very much for protecting this district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless everyone. Stay safe.